4. Plenty of time for John. Now squeezes, steps up in the pocket. LA can run inside the 10. Head first. He flies off the 5-yard line.
65 horsepower trap. It might pop wide open, Rats.
Get this there!
Is that there, Rats? Oh, nice going, baby. Yes, sir, Rats.
High snap. It's no good. The Chargers go in.
Here comes the rush. He sidesteps. Can he throw? He can. The ball flipped forward as loose. A wild scramble. 2 seconds on the clock. Casper grabbing the ball. It is rolled a fumble. Casper is recovered in the end zone. The Oakland Raiders have scored on the most seedy.
Hello and welcome to the Wild Wild West podcast. I am Richie Richey of the MHRT Network. To my, I guess, left or right, depending on which direction you're looking at, is Captain Jack.
Yeah, I did it there.
And that's impressive after recovery. That's a good job there, Captain. And down directly below, we have Alex. And quickly jumping in, we have Coach Defense of the Locked On Defense podcast. I know the jersey change and the hat. I'm just gonna say this: we do not allow for wardrobe changes to be the reason for you being late. That is a valid excuse for your wife, and that's totally cool. Not okay for you.
He just called you a bitch.
Wow. In a very respectful way. He's like, with all due respect.
Yeah.
I said with all due respect.
I don't give a bleep about what y'all got to say today. Do you hear me? It is Derwin James Day. I don't give a damn what y'all say. It is Derwin James Day. Chargers land is happy. We are good to go. Listen, y'all can say what y'all want to say. I don't care. It doesn't matter. We signed Derwin James for a long-term extension, and we ready to roll. That's all I gotta say. That's all I gotta say.
No, that actually wasn't facetious when I actually was yawning there. That was not directed at Derwin James. No, seriously.
No, I figured we were gonna jump right into the contract announcement that came out today. I have to imagine all Chargers fans must be, pretty
all three of them?
about. Pardon me?
Well, wait. Let's go. Now there's Coach, there's Carp, there's a couple other ones in here.
Well, DZ,
DZ, Coach, yes. Carp, DZ. There's one.
Well,
more.
and then we got the Bolt Bros podcast, which is at least 3 of them and their fans. So
got the Bolt Bros.
So that's 6.
That's pretty much the whole Charger nation right there.
Right. Hey, there's only one nation.
That's why I did that. It was a two-pronged jab.
That was a twofer right there, Captain.
Yeah.
Chargers entity or whatever the hell they call themselves. That's it.
Broncos country. That's right.
Well,
no.
Anyways, Coach, just to drive the point home, my drink tonight is several liters of Guinness. The real drink, straight from Dublin. But I just wanted to thank everyone who's joining us today live for the podcast. There's quite a number of you in the chat. We always love the lively chats. And Tito, for the record, I just wake up this way. No, I was not grooming my beard. This is just the way I look when I wake up in the morning.
Tell them, DZ. Tell them. They're not ready for us yet. They're not ready for us. They're gonna learn.
T-H-E-R-E though.
They're gonna learn though. They're gonna learn though. There's Cap's buddy. There's Rob. All season the building.
Hey, Rob, I saw your tweet. I responded to it. Happy birthday to your son.
Yes, definitely. Happy birthday.
It's great seeing those types of things and those posts. Fantastic. wish your son happy birthday from the Wild Wild West podcast. Thank you for joining us again.
Tell him even Uncle Jack said happy birthday.
Yes,
Uncle Jack sounds pretty creepy, not gonna lie.
yeah, just a little.
Well, it's not like I said I have a lollipop now come to the van or anything, right? So like,
Wow.
Tell him Uncle Jack's got some candy in the van. Why don't you
Loose
come on down?
Nah. I always card. They got to be at least 18.
At least.
I learned that. Hey, I was in the Philippines for a couple years. I said they got to be at least 18.
Okay, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough.
Almost not grass in the infield, play ball. You get to go, I
I
guess.
take the butcher's word for it on that one.
Yeah.
I got stories, but I'll tell the guys off. I'll tell you guys off camera.
Okay. Yeah, don't want to get his banned this early.
Yeah, exactly. La 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 la. I don't know what they're talking about.
I see what he did there.
Oh, yeah.
DZ he's a longtime fan of the show. I always love DZ in the show. I've made several comments that are we'll just call it Canadian, which is basically British grammar. Love the reference, DZ. Again, thank you very much for joining us. We had one heck of a busy week, though, guys. There's a whole whack of stuff that went on. We had roster changes and cuts. All teams across the NFL. Maybe we can start there before we get right into the preseason stuff. Coach, maybe I'll start with you. Did you have any surprise roster cuts that you were, kind of saying, "Hey, I don't know if I would have done that one"?
Well, it was a cut that kind of shocked the Chargers world for a brief minute. Then we realized what happened. Forrest Merrill, one of our I guess you can say fan favorites.
What?
Forrest Merrill. He's a defensive tackle.
Okay.
He was one of our UDFAs that we had high hopes for. One of those big run-stopping bodies that we were hoping to have. He had high hopes for, in a sense, and everybody was rooting for him to make the 53. He just barely missed it last season. He came on, he was on and off with injuries last year. He played a little bit when people were hurt and came back, to the roster, active roster, depending on who was active that week. But he ended up getting hurt. He had a shoulder problem that ended up knocking him out for the season. So the Chargers released him off injury designation versus just flat out don't make the roster, that type of deal. But we were shocked about that particular cut, but it was only due to injury. I think he would have definitely made it down to 75, maybe 53 had he not been injured. But the injury kind of set him back. But we were really pulling for him to be one of those interior reserve guys that we could have used down the line. So, yeah, that was the only one that really shocked me about them cutting. Because, again, it was all about injury. Everybody else kind of expected.
It's a Missouri guy, too. He's from where I'm from down here.
Yeah.
Down in the Ozarks, baby.
Ozarks.
So what? So really, what you're saying is the other guys that were cut, you I'm not saying you expected, but you were certainly not shocked or surprised or anything of that nature.
No, not at all.
Captain, I'll come to you next. But Alex, what about you? Did you have any surprises that came from the Chiefs roster cuts?
Not really. It was kind of like sort of weeding out a bunch of receivers and defensive backs because they always sign an aggressive amount. I think the only one that surprised me, but also kind of gauging the narrative of camp up to this point didn't, was Lonnie Johnson, solely because they traded for him with Houston, but it was a 7th-round pick, so it's not like they gave up a ton. But that just kind of goes to show that they're more likely, wanting to press the youth movement, so to speak, and aren't going to keep guys around that are a little older if they're sort of on the fringe. So, it really didn't surprise me, but I think that was the biggest name or the most shock value out of the people they got rid of to get down to the required amount.
Interesting. Now, are you okay with cutting some of the wide receiver depth on your team as you guys are still trying to figure out who's who?
Yeah. The guys they cut are like, it was what was his name? Like Gary Jennings and people you'd never heard of. and the other one was his name was Gray, who was in the USFL. And kind of, made a little name for himself there, so got a camp invite. But it wasn't like they were getting rid of anybody that, has really been in the ones and twos and in the actual rotation of receivers. So I'm not overly upset with them dumping some.
Right. So, I mean, I guess that kind of makes some sense in terms of, you had a few too many, but I guess at the end of the day, when you're looking at what's going on and how things are panning out ultimately, you're coming up to a time where injuries can start happening in preseason games. You're still trying to kind of figure out who's who on your roster, who can fill those gaps, fill those voids. I know just even with Tim Patrick's injury, the Broncos have this, pretty competitive wide receiver room. So I'm kind of looking at it from our perspective and kind of transferring my own, curiosity from the Broncos over to the Chiefs and just saying, you never know who can show out in some of these preseason games. And, careers are made and broken in preseason games a lot of the times because you're up against actual competition.
Yeah, no, I mean, with our later topics in mind, I mean, there are some I plan to talk about that are making a name for himself, and obviously why they weren't the ones that were cut. So, I mean, I do think it's good, especially in preseason and with those types of, secondary and receiver, really, you need a lot of depth and rotation in these 3 games just so you can, kind of have people make a name for himself or find that diamond in the rough of someone who can contribute, not a whole bunch, but at least to some degree in the regular season.
Sure.
To answer old DZ's question, though, from what I've seen, Hardman is not, overly hurt. He landed funny and just kind of got up limping. And every report, I mean, they haven't said anything as a formal diagnosis, but he was able to walk off the field and talk to Reed and stuff after he went to the tent. So it doesn't seem to be anything serious. I think at this stage they're just being precautious. Juju sat out yesterday, and I think today too. But again, it's kind of once you get past a couple years, it's the veteran presence in camp of if you feel banged up, we're not going to press you to go. So I think that's kind of more of how Hardman's going to play out. At least what I've seen doesn't seem to be anything serious.
Every time I hear funny, I always think of Pesci. Oh, I'm funny to you. I'm funny how? Funny how? Huh? Funny, and I won't go into it because obviously this is a family show.
So, with regards to the Raiders, Captain, anything come out of those cuts that you were surprised or kind of said, I don't know if I would have cut him, yet, or at least I would have liked to have seen him get more shot, like another shot or anything along those lines?
No. I mean, it never fails. I turned the phone off and then it mysteriously comes back on just in time for being on a live show. So
just like you were trying to leave the show, right?
Oh,
yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
Never forget.
Never let me forget. Here, let me pick my nose.
Yeah.
Anyway, George Carlin at you, brother. The only thing and it wasn't really a surprise, but we let go of Demarcus Robinson, and it wasn't really a surprise based upon the way he's played. And not that he's played awful, because he hasn't played awful, but he hasn't shown anything over the plethora of other guys that are out there to make the roster. And one of the things I saw, which is going to be surprising to even young Alex, because it was a knock on his hard, him not really going at it, his not really being charged up, not really
wasn't doing anything in the run game.
Well, yeah, he was not blocking well, or he didn't show a lot the last couple games. And normally his blocking was decent in Kansas City, but he didn't show it in the Jacksonville game and then the last game. And it was just a matter of DJ Turner the younger kid really did show it. And he would, I mean, the way he would have been a hard press based upon what he has shown to make the 53. So actually, the Raiders did him a favor as a veteran. They cut him early to see if he can latch on with somebody else. So, you know, Demarcus Robinson.
Back on KC. I'm going to be very upset if that happens.
I giggle. But anyway, and the reason why I say that is because KC's like, whoo, we finally got rid of him. And then, you know, if he comes back.
Just goes to show, you know, that dude was like the 3-4 wide receiver, you know, for the greater part of the last 2 years. And the Raiders didn't even think he deserved to make it through to the final cuts. And he's also the player that they, you know, tried to give 2 balls to in overtime of the AFC Championship game. And so that just, you know, goes to the offense last year and like what Mahomes did not have outside of 2 people.
Yeah.
But
one as I said, Vernon Butler, the older, but because we have a plethora of Butlers on the team. The kid that we drafted and then the kid we picked up in free agency who was the linebacker out of Arizona State. The eldest Butler, the Butler didn't do it because he got cut. He didn't really show anything. Jerry Green is kind of a surprise. He was the defensive end that was taking a lot of the reps while, you know, Chandler Jones wasn't playing. He was a little bit of a surprise. Tyrone Wheatley's son was cut. Not really a surprise because, again, the depth that we have. I mean, we're still trying to figure out who the hell is going to play right tackle, but we have a bunch of throw-ins for if this guy is hurt, it's going to be this guy. We have a bunch of just another effing guys, but Ty Wheatley wasn't one of them. So that's not really a big thing. Is the big and can I talk about non-big news as well? It's like who is back in camp, or are we just doing cuts right now?
Who's back in camp?
Who's back? I'm asking.
Yeah. Okay. I'm asking.
Who's back?
The people that were on the physically unable to perform list, Bilal Nichols is back in camp. Tavon Mullen is back in camp. Dylan Stoner is back in camp. The Rock Yassin, who had been out, is back in camp. So a lot of the guys that were injured were back playing as of today, which is a good thing that we are getting them back acclimated into camp. And now because again, Mullen, I was like, dude, I think he's probably going to be on the, you know, the final 53, then immediately cut on the IR for about 5 to 10 weeks because, you know, but because that's what it was like. And the big one who is back in camp was a gentleman by the name of Darren Waller, back in camp as of today, practicing.
Right. Now the question will be how many of those guys who have come back from PUP will actually play?
I'm pretty sure Waller will. I'm pretty sure Bilal Nichols will.
I don't know if you'd even want them to play, right? That's the question. Because
I'm talking about as far as, but they're going to at least get some practice reps,
right?
Yeah,
right.
I bet they don't play Waller at all.
You really want them to play in the preseason.
I would put Waller. I would put Waller in a like bubble wrap and say break glass. On September 11th.
Right. Right.
The one thing, and I know that this is, and I am not a partaker of 420, but Raider fans, all of them want Dylan Stoner to make the team because everybody wants to buy a Stoner Raider jersey. They just do. They do.
Selfish reasons.
I'm sure you can customize your own.
It's selfish reasons. It's selfish reasons. But Raider Nation wants a Stoner jersey because you can't have them made. Because remember the old Michael Vick thing years ago? You couldn't have like Ron Mexico jerseys, and then they cut on things that you can't put on your jersey.
It's basically a poor man's Hunter Renfrow. Like, he ain't making it?
Well, but what the thing is that the Raider fans want Dylan because everybody wants to buy a Raiders Stoner jersey. I'm just saying. I don't think he's
setting those bars low. So it's
be in that Roomba with the Stoner.
Setting the bars low.
There you go.
But
There you
I
go.
want you to make well, and then the
I
question
find
is
out.
well,
I'll let you know.
will Davis have him make the team just because he believes there'll be an immediate spike in jersey sales and then cut him immediately thereafter?
There you go. Make the money.
I mean, who knows, right? But it sounds like you didn't have very many surprises in terms of roster cuts.
No.
I will say the Broncos had a few that I was a bit surprised about. So we have a wide receiver that's still on our team, Darius Shepard, who came from Green Bay, who has some familiarity with Hackett. So maybe that's why he's still there even now. But in my opinion, he didn't really do a ton. He didn't really show out. Nothing spectacular, nothing interesting. He survived that first round of roster cuts. And then another guy that I didn't think was going to make the cuts and I thought would be someone who I would have preferred to have been cut instead of Davis. Just to give you an idea who I'm talking about, that's Caden Davis, who I actually thought had some really good catches in the first preseason game for the Broncos. He had some of the longest catches actually of the Broncos with the sideline catch there against the Cowboys. They cut Davis, which I was quite surprised because I thought they would want to see more of him and continue that competition aggressively at the wide receiver position, especially for those kind of back 2 or 3 spots, which the Broncos are still kind of churning for. And then another one that I was really surprised that we cut because he, to me on film, he showed some really interesting promise if they could actually field an offensive line that could figure a way to run block. And that was Max Borghi. He was the first running back that I really saw burst from and was able to make good on the small kind of sliver holes that were opened by the Denver Broncos offensive line in that game. And to call what they opened as slivers is even being somewhat generous. Their run blocking was atrocious. But those are really the 2 surprise cuts that I saw from the Broncos. I don't necessarily think that either one of them would have necessarily made the 53. Borghi, I thought might have, just because he's a Colorado kid and has some kind of local ties, kind of a bit of a Philip Lindsay kind of player, kind of that quick burst speed kind of guy. But Caden Davis really did show some interesting promise. So cutting him this early is a bit of a risk in my opinion, because I thought he really could have done some interesting things, even if we were able to somehow slide him on the practice squad, because having a quick speed guy like that is never a bad thing. And having a kick returner as a backup on your practice squad is also not a bad thing. The one guy that I just think is important to note for those of you who don't really follow the Broncos is the Broncos cut Jamar Johnson, who was a draft pick just last year from the Vic Fangio kind of era there. He had a couple decent plays, but at the end of the day, if you're going to be critical as a Broncos fan, he allowed his receivers to lead him too much. He has good closing speed, which I think is a good thing, but he allowed the wide receivers he was going up against to lead him too much in the preseason game. You just can't do that against the starters. They're going to eat you alive. So that was really the big reason why I think he was cut, and that's kind of what we saw.
So you say with Borghi, resistance was futile?
Nice Star Trek reference. Nice Star Trek reference. I like it. I am Locutus of Borg.
Right. But I actually think Max will probably land on a team practice squad.
Yeah.
And I think he'll be picked up pretty quickly. And I think there'll be a bit of I think he'll have options, in my opinion. I think he'll have 3 or 4 teams that are going to say, we want you on our practice squad, because he's kind of got that type of skill set. So I could see something like that. I could see a team wanting him there because he's that quick, shifty guy. And he's also a guy that I could totally see a team like the Ravens, for example, who have a mobile quarterback and then want to maybe have a shifty small guy who can really kind of shimmy shake and get some extra yards. I could see a guy like Max fitting in a team like there and do some damage on a team like that. I could also see him coach. I could see him fitting on your practice squad for the Chargers as well. Shifty college player, speed. He's the type of guy that I was kind of referring to in our previous podcast that I could see sitting behind on your practice squad. And in case one of your running backs, like an Eckler, for example, gets injured, Borghi might not be a dead ringer for someone like Eckler, but he's certainly someone that could fill a similar role in terms of speed, shiftiness, toughness, that kind of stuff.
Well, it's interesting you say that because and Alex are like this. I was actually very impressed with Josh Kelly in the preseason game. He showed me a lot. Yeah, he showed me a lot. Not necessarily running the ball either. He's catching the ball out of the backfield.
Yes.
He caught a lot of passes out of the backfield, and he made a headway in space as well. So he showed that dynamic one-cut ability that we saw at UCLA coming out of college. So
that's your third-year running back, right?
Yes. Yeah. Drafted him 2 years ago. So. Yeah. And having him and Spiller, I would like to believe that I think they would feel pretty comfortable with not, I wouldn't say necessarily wasting a roster spot, but it wouldn't be a high priority if they continue to pan out the way they've been panning out so far. They've all had solid camps, and they've all had a good preseason game in this past week. So if that trend continues, I would like to believe that they will feel really comfortable with those three guys as their main horses as far as, using them in both the running and the passing game. But, it was one sample size, but I was actually highly impressed with the way Kelly played in the preseason. But yet again, my knock was never against him in the preseason and the practice. My knock was in real live games and his fumbling issue. So that shows me that he can't he got over that aspect of his game. Then I'm still kind of holding my breath. But yeah, it was interesting to see.
Everyone's a preseason
this year.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, everybody shines in the preseason. I did some good things. I did some really good things outside of that. But again, it is the preseason against I guess you could say guys fighting to make the 53. So it's not like it's against starters.
Right, but this is how traditionally in the NFL, a good percentage of the Hall of Fame players made their names for themselves in preseason. A good percentage.
Yeah, in a sense. Well, I mean, we can go back to use the percentage like half the league is undrafted and a good majority of a percentage of Hall of Famers.
And how do you think they made the roster?
You're right. Lower round draft picks and or undrafted guys. So yeah,
that's how they made the roster was preseason games and showing that they can compete and showing that they are better than the third and fourth strings that they're going up against, so that the team has to keep them on the roster.
Right.
And then when they were kept on the roster and the guy ahead of them got hurt, they played and played out and made the best of their opportunities. This is exactly how such a sizable percentage even of the NFL has gotten to the point that they're at and made names for themselves. Some of them household names for themselves.
Very true. But in the sample size that you have of guys that have made it big, you also have a large guys
that haven't.
Exactly. It's more that haven't made it, they haven't hit than the guy that have. Like we're talking diamonds in the rough for guys that have made long careers out of being a UDFA or lower round draft pick, 6th, 7th round, versus the guys that just don't hit. I mean, hell, you got first round draft picks that don't hit.
100%. But these lower round draft picks, this is where it's games like these that allow them to show the general public and the coaches who they are and why they need to be kept.
Mm-hmm.
I also feel like the undrafted guys, they make that sense known in the first year. It's not like year 2 or 3 where they burst out of camp somewhere. So it's like with Kelly's situation here. I mean, in this third year or third or fourth,
year,
he's been around for a minute. So it's not like he's going to get any better than where he was at from the sample size you got the last 2 years.
Right.
Well, Kelly, that I disagree with. Kelly made some changes this offseason. You can see by his physical makeup. He put on about 15 to 20 pounds, it looks like, of muscle. And one of his issues, as Coach alluded to, was fumbling. Well, adding that kind of mass will help you hold on to the ball.
It might.
Right? No, it might, but he showed that he could hold on to the ball or at least run better with the ball and catch with the ball and stuff in the preseason game. So
yeah,
I think if you're a Chargers fan, you have to be pretty excited about that, because part of a college player's trajectory into the pros is knowing enough to know enough to make the right changes when they need to make them. And so many players learn that too late. And it's too late for them to do it because they've gotten hurt so much that their body can't take it anymore, or they realize that they failed their techniques, and because they're so far behind, they can't get far enough ahead to kind of catch up. So for a young running back like that to recognize that he had a fumbling issue or couldn't hold onto the ball and has then added the bulk, and based on what I saw, he's a pretty solid dude. I would be shocked if he doesn't make your 53.
Yeah, I'm more high. I mean, if he could continue to trend upward, because I like his athletic ability more so than Larry Roundtree's. So I think that.
Well, yeah, Roundtree is just a friggin' stump.
Yeah, right. So I like his athletic ability and his versatility more so than I like for Kelly than I like Roundtree. So I would definitely say that I think Spiller's a lot to be RB2 in my opinion. But I would say that definitely he could be number 3.
No, but 3 is better than cut.
Oh, absolutely.
So
yeah. I'm definitely not saying he's going to get cut. I'm just thinking his role in the offense would be little if he didn't show any improvement or any signs of improvement, or ability to rectify those fumbling issues. So I think that was the biggest thing that I was concerned with. But yeah, I don't think he got much bigger from a body perspective. I think he just reevaluated certain areas that he needed to get stronger in, because I think he's still listed about 212. He's
heavier.
He came in about 210 when he got drafted. So he's 212.
No, he's heavier.
He might look heavier, but he's not listed.
No, he is heavier. They announced it live where he put on 15 to 20 pounds. He is heavier.
That's a lot for running back. That's 15, 20 pounds is a lot for running back.
It's a lot of mass. Yeah.
Captain, I'm surprised you didn't go the other route and say baby, the other white meat.
Oh, wow.
Because he, in order to put on 15 to 20 pounds over the offseason, you have to really, that's your focus. But he looks thicker through the upper body. He's certainly larger through his arms. And he's probably put on some mass in his legs as well.
That's possible. I mean, you also got to realize that when you put on pads, it's different types of pads, it can make you look bigger. I've seen him without pads, and he doesn't look drastically bigger than me from last season. But again, I'm sure he got stronger in certain areas, his arms, his chest area, to be able to hold the ball and withstand those, inadvertent knockouts that people try to go for when they try to strip the ball from you, things of that 100%. Nature. But yeah, I think that overall, I don't think he got drastically bigger. I think 15 to 20 pounds might be good for a lineman, but it's not good for a running back. It's definitely not good for your ability to cut and do certain things in the open field. So I actually think he's gotten lighter on his feet. His cutting ability seems to have a tick better this season than it was last season. So I would say that he's got more agile, maybe stronger, but I wouldn't give him 15 to 20 pounds of like actual muscle. That's a little bit much, because he'll be a 230-pound back at that point. He's a power back, not a one cut.
Eddie Lacy.
You're exactly.
No. Eddie Lacy was a bowling ball.
Yeah.
And more of a jello ball, actually, if you're going to be honest.
Eddie Lacy had one good year and was like, all right.
That's it. I would eat McDonald's every day.
Yeah.
So, Coach, maybe bouncing right over from that, let's go right over to the preseason game. We kind of started touching on your team, so maybe we'll start with your team.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of information do you have from your first preseason game that you'd like to share with those of us joining today? And real quick, just before you jump in, the banner at the bottom there, if you are watching us on Twitter, we would love to hear from you. The problem is Twitter has basically done some funky business in the background. We can't see your comments live on the show. We really do want to see your comments on the show. So if you want to come over and leave your comments, have us read them live, ask the questions, whatever you'd like to do, come over to YouTube or Facebook, either of those two platforms, and we'll be able to read your comments and read what you have to say. And all the links to all of our YouTube channels and everything are below in the description. And one last thing, particularly with YouTube, YouTube really does favor those videos that get a lot of likes. You can go ahead and click that like button for each and every one of the videos that you are watching live on for all of our channels. We would greatly appreciate it. and it really does boost us and allow us to get more AFC West fans joining us live on a regular basis. So,
Give
Coach,
it up,
over to
Buddy
you.
Jesus, man. Buddy Jesus there, man. Hit a like and then go over to another YouTube channel. Hit a like and then go over to another YouTube channel. We got, 3 YouTube channels up. Hit us. Hey, go to 3 channels. Hit the likes.
And
Come on,
subscribe.
it's not
While
that
you at it.
difficult.
Hit that
Yeah.
sub while you at it.
Yeah. So, Coach,
And
over to
subscribe.
you. Over to you to kind of give us a breakdown on the Chargers preseason game. Really, I watched a good portion of it. Curious to see what you have to say.
Yeah, I watched it a little bit delay. I have an NFL, was called NFL Plus now, not no longer Game Pass. So I watched it a little bit of a delay. Was on vacation this past week, right before the season, sink that last vacation in. So a little bit delayed, but I did get to see from top to bottom, and there was some positive things I saw, some negative things that we need to work on. Players that surprised me as far as being able to be productive in that game, and some guys that kind of disappointed me. So going from top to bottom, I think overall, I think the reserves got a lot of starters didn't play clearly. One thing that does stick out to me that I'm just still curious about, that I understand he's a wily veteran and he's been in the league a while, but Chase Daniels, outside of being just a motivating factor in the league, why is he playing quarterback? I don't get why he's the second string quarterback on our team. It should be Easton Stick. Easton Stick has a more lively arm. He's more athletic.
How dare you disrespect Chase Daniel like that, man?
Listen,
you know how much money that dude has made for throwing 15 passes? He is the American dream. True American hero. He's got over $50 million for doing
holding a clipboard, exactly.
Hey.
Yeah, he has. Again,
he's made more money easily than Bradford did getting his ass kicked. So I will give Chase Daniel. Yeah, he's made money easy.
Bradford got beat up for his money.
And he's a Mizzou guy, so
yeah. So it's a little bit frustrating watching Chase run with the second unit, because I think they could have been more productive if Easton was running with the second group.
I know I am.
So
me.
Yeah, so I don't like the idea of him being the second string quarterback, to be honest. I understand he's a veteran, he knows a lot, he's been around the block and this and the third, but I think Easton Stick should have been the guy to be the second unit guy, and Chase can clean up the rest of the mess. But that's the only part that frustrated me from the offensive perspective. From a weapons perspective, the receivers look good in their reserve roles. I will say this: the Chargers going to have an interesting problem to have on their hands when it comes down to who they pick for a receiver. Because I thought it was a 5-man race, top to bottom, but it's a couple of, I guess you could say, UDFAs and got walk-on guys that honestly and truly could be trying to fight for a roster spot. There's one guy by the name of Michael Bandy. He had a really good preseason game against the Rams. Joe Reed, who was almost like a cast-off. He was from the old regime. They got drafted by the old regime, and everybody had pretty much wrote him off. He had a great game. So if that continues, and they're going to get a lot of work because a lot of starters don't play. So between Joe Reed and Michael Bandy, from the offensive perspective, they're going to get a lot of touches, get a lot of targets. And if they can keep producing, I think it will be an interesting problem to decide who makes the 53 in regards to the wide receiver group and the wide receiver room.
You can't have a read on the Garglers. He's supposed to be with the Chiefs to help Andy with his get it ready. Waffle House takeout.
Yeah.
Too early for it?
I think that one's fizzling out a bit, but might just be me.
No more.
Well, it's almost 8 p.m. here. Waffle House is long closed.
Oh, what?
But Reed, Chiefs, Waffle. I was trying to string it along.
He's more of a burger guy at this time.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize it was spelled wrong.
Yeah, come on.
Okay. Apologies.
So, Coach, you had some interesting names there from your list for the game. Oh!
You upset
I did
him.
not hit him. I did not delete.
What you did?
I didn't. My hands were here.
So this must be one of those infamous Californian brownouts that happen on a regular basis because they just simply can't keep their power grid on. I'm up north of the border, and my power grid is just fine. Thank you very much.
Yeah, but Coach is
Just
in
fine.
South Carolina. He's somewhere on the East Coast. There he is.
No, he's in California, the West Coast.
Oh, he's in Cal. I thought, Coach, you were in Virginia.
No, I'm in Maryland. Actually, got a bad storm down here. It's
Okay.
messing with my internet today for some reason. Doesn't
that's the rounding error of a state, isn't it? That's like the tiny one down there.
The rounding error. Okay.
Maryland?
Yeah, I'm actually not too far from FedEx Field. I'm actually about
Crab cakes and football.
FedEx
That's
Field.
what Maryland does.
Well, I was close. I said Virginia. Yeah.
Yeah, but East
And
Coast.
by the way, it's not Maryland. It's just like Charles Barkley saying it's Merlin.
Terrible.
Merlin. Terrible.
Yep. I'm in Maryland, DZ. Yeah, I'm in Maryland. So, as I was trying to allude to before I got interrupted by the weather. Overall,
I didn't do it.
I know this time it had nothing to do with it.
Allegedly.
Yes. But overall, offensively, I think Zion played really well in this couple of snaps that he gave. Jameer Salyer played really well. Will Clapp did not. Backup center. Trey Pipkins had a decent game, but apparently he had a really bad joint practice with the Cowboys today. So that's an issue about right tackle. I talked a little about what Josh Kelly did in the preseason game, so he played really well. Isaiah Spiller came in the second half, had some interesting carries, had some good yardage that he gained on the ground in the second half. So I like that. So overall, the offense looked pretty solid, even with two backup quarterbacks running it. So it was pretty fluid. I think the only thing that really held us back was penalties. That was a negative that something that's kind of carried over from this year to last year. Holding penalties. There's more penalties on the defense, honestly. The offense didn't have a whole lot. They had a couple of holding penalties, but the defense really was the sticking point when it came down to pass interference calls that we had, the extended drives. That was a negative. A couple of face masking penalties, things of that nature. That were some on the sticking points as far as penalties were concerned. But overall, the pass rush in the second unit was really good. I like what I saw out of Chris Rump. Chris Rump played really well. He's a second generation kid. His dad is a former player and coach. He's another guy that we talked about early on in the podcast about potentially being a good reserve role backup edge rusher. That they could come in and fill in for Bosa and Mac in a reserve role. It's actually he did put on about 15 to 20 pounds of good solid muscle as an edge guy coming from Duke. So he looks really good. He's actually beating guys with power moves as well as finesse and speed rush moves in the preseason. So that's a plus. I like what I saw out of Morgan Fox. Morgan Fox is a guy that came over from the Panthers, a good interior D lineman. I saw him completely flatten a guard on the third down. It was almost made me jump on my seat. So that was good, getting that interior pass rush from him as well as getting the edge rush pass from Rump. So that was good. I guess those are the positives. The DBs, our reserve DBs, need a little bit of a coaching as far as getting their head around when it comes down to ball placement when the ball's in the air, because we got a couple of penalties on that for face guarding. So that extended a few drives. And actually, it led to two of the Rams scores, in all honesty, because had they not committed those penalties, it would have not been it had been punting situations for the Rams. So ultimately, that was the biggest thing that stuck out. Yes, Dean Leonard had a rough day. Rob, he had a rough day. Zonnie Samuel got a penalty, and so he got like three of them between special teams and just coverage penalties. He got caught with his pants down a few times in coverage, so he got some learning to do. So that in tackling, but that's always a big issue in this preseason. Tackling was an issue. They have issue with tackling that mobile quarterback that Rams had a few times. He escaped out of a few sacks that they could have been tackles for losses, end up being gains and first downs. So overall, those are the biggest things. And if I had to pinpoint guys that I liked as far as their stock is up for me versus stock down, I would say Morgan Fox's stock is up for me as being an interior reserve pass rusher, third down. Chris Rump's stock is up for me. I like the way Michael Davis played in the slot this particular game. He played well. I think Troy Reader played well as well. He actually had a really good game at the linebacker spot, filling in for Drew Tranquill and Kenneth Murray. So he had a solid game. I think there was a sleeky and solid acquisition they got from the Rams in the offseason to bring him over. And Michael Bandy, he was He was doing his best Wes Welker, Julian Edelman, and Cooper Kupp impersonation against the reserves against the Rams, and being a really good slot receiver target for the backup quarterback. So that was good. So overall, those are the guys that I would say that their stock is up for me in their first game. Stock down, I would say Jerry Tillery. He got pushed around in a big way, and I said that, and I've been saying it for the past year, that I think that he might be a trade candidate at the end of the off season or end of the preseason before the season starts, that we could maybe move him for some draft capital or another player, because I don't think he really fits what we're trying to do up front. Will Clapp, he was really bad in pass pro. He's a reserve center. Chase Daniel, his inaccurate throws, and Dean Leonard's coverage and his penalties. I think those are the guys that were definitely had a rough go in the preseason game. And they need to do some improving in order to make the 53, in my opinion.
Let me ask you a question here, Coach, because this is not a joke. This is a valid question. Tillery hasn't come around, just like Cleve Farrell hasn't shown a lot, and people saying, well, maybe they're a trade candidate. But if people already know that these guys have not shown anything, who is really going to trade for a Cleve Farrell or a Jerry Tillery or things along those lines? People that just don't pan out, and they know that with their contracts, and the team's going to eat it anyway for the most part. How likely you think Tillery gets traded? Because I don't think Cleve Farrell's going to get traded. He's gonna unfortunately he's gonna stick around for the team, or we're going to cut his ass, and it's like just move on and just eat the dollars.
Right. Yeah, I think with Tillery's case, I think this is a point Rich made about one of his guys. I think it's Draymond Jones. Rich, when he's more.
Sorry, hold on one sec. DZ, this is a family show. Okay, let's simmer down. Let's simmer down. Okay, kids are watching. Let's be careful. Thank you.
I never have a problem finishing, baby.
Served that one up for him, didn't we?
Yeah.
Sorry, Coach. I had to correct the comments when they're there. It is what it is.
Yeah, we got to monitor that.
Yeah, you got to monitor this stuff.
The interruption was very well warranted. I get it.
If you're going to monitor it, you're going to have to catch out my OnlyFans page. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, Lord.
All right. Link to that below.
So anyways, Coach.
Oh man, but yes, to answer your question, Cap, try to get back on track. I think that because we kind of switched over kind of a hybrid 34, and Tillery doesn't fit that scheme, and from a body type perspective, and I think that he can be a reserve pass rushing guy, but they want him to be a three down guy. He just doesn't fit our mode. I really think he's decent in the pass protection and pass rush game. I really think he's good there. So if somebody's looking for that skill set and they run a different style of defense, he can maybe fit in that particular role versus where he fits with the Chargers. So I think that's the only selling point you can really give another team, to say, hey, he doesn't fit us and what we're trying to do here, but he may fit you. And I don't think we will ask for a tremendous amount for him, even though he's the first round pick. And what we did do in his case, we didn't pick up his 5th-year option. So his 4th year is the year he's on, and he doesn't have a 5th-year option on the docket, which will be guaranteed money. So I think that for us, it'll be easier to actually trade him now versus just, like you said, just let him walk for free at the end of the season.
We'll swap him for Cleve straight up, because
we're good.
We didn't pick up his 5th-year option either, and we need another 3-4 guy. And I don't think and I like Cleve. I really do. I think that he's just not been used well, and that it was a matter of him being in a system at Clemson where the entire defensive line was wonderful, and they had high aspirations for everybody. And honestly, of that entire forefront at Clemson that was drafted high, I don't think anybody's really made a mark in the NFL, if I remember correctly.
Wilkins in Miami's kind of been like the only decent one. But you're right. That whole team was kind of overhyped anyways.
So Coach, I have a question with regards to Tillery, though. So you're saying, hey, it'd be great if we could trade him and, so on and so forth. If he's not working out with you and what you're doing, where are his strengths and what does he actually do well? Basically, what I'm getting at here is if he is just not done well, then why would anyone want to trade for him? And
That's what I was
moreover, if he does do some things well, what are they, and what type of team might covet the things that he does well because it might fit them better?
Well, you will probably have to use you almost have to set him like a high school kid. You cut up his nice plays that he made in preseason and past seasons and what he's done in the pass rush game. He's not done much of nothing in regards to running his ability to stop the run. He hasn't done much there. But I would say from a pass rush perspective, he has some flashes. Let's just say it that way. So if you cut up his flashes and you put him into a mixtape of sorts and to say that, hey, this is who we can be if he can fit your scheme, then hey, give us a 5th round pick. You take him, and everybody goes their separate ways.
You're gonna have to trade him for like a 7th. You're getting greedy with this 5th rounder.
Listen, you got to start high and come down to what you want. You got to say, give me a 5th.
You take him for Chicago.
I think in that situation, it's more of like the Chargers are trying to get rid of their turd and, put it in foil and, light it up, make it look nice for a team to take it. I think with that mindset, you got to take what you can get.
Hey, listen, I'm in a bit of a quandary here. I'm trying to sell Russell Westbrook for my NBA team. I need somebody to take him off my hands, and I need somebody to take Jerry Tilley off my football team. So those two guys don't have a lot of good film on either end. And
one costs $50 million, and one costs.
Look, man, a polished turd is still a turd. Everything is still crap. Yeah. Okay,
that's a good one, Rich. You're right. Listen.
We traded him for a washing machine.
Right. I'm trying to be the marketer and try to convince whoever wants to trade for him what his value is. Now, whether he pans out to that, once he's gone, he out of my organization, then guess what? Then that's your business. But I'm trying to sell. I'm trying to be used car salesman here and say that you want to buy this '93 Beetle.
Don't sweat it.
I said I'll Cleve Farrell for Tillery straight up. That's all I'm giving.
We're good. We're good on that.
So, Captain, over to you with regards to the Raiders. Kind of talking about their preseason game, what you saw from them. Curious as to kind of your takeaways, the highs, the lows, and what you're really looking for maybe the next game. You have had a unique preseason, the fact that you were part of the Hall of Fame game.
Yes, sir.
So you've had some interesting opportunities. Actually, in my opinion, I think it benefits McDaniels.
It did.
I really do. I truly believe that it truly benefits a first-time head coach to be forced into that extra preseason game that all the other teams don't get the benefit of, because he gets to get a better feel for the players that are on the roster, who fits, who doesn't, etc. So what do you think has come out of the Raiders' now second preseason game? What did you like? What didn't you like?
I do have to say, though, he's not a first-time head coach. You unless you're trying to
he's a new head coach for the Raiders, so he doesn't know. He doesn't really know who he's dealing with, right?
First-time head coach. I know you're trying to forget his stint in Denver. I know you are.
I have been one of the least critical people of McDaniels.
You actually have, and that's true. Getting that extra game was good for McDaniels, and like I said, it will be beneficial for the team because it's an extra week of having people buy into the system. There are people that are already gone. Like, for example, we traded Edwards to the Falcons for a pick. We just traded Tyree Gillespie, who I really was high on out of Mizzou, and we traded him today to the Titans for a I think it was a ham sandwich and a pick to be named later. I don't even know what the compensation was for Gillespie, and I was very high on Gillespie.
The one I wanted for Tillery.
Yeah, but there are people that are already they're showing their worth, and that's why Gillespie was gone because Roderick Teamer, who Coach knows a little bit about, who played down with the Garglers a year or so ago, he's really showed his worth. He got the up check on his last game, whereas Gillespie wasn't showing anything, and we shipped him off to Tennessee for a pick to be named later. So you get a chance, like I said, as McDaniel comes in. There are no more Al Davis scholarships. You either fit or you don't. And that's why I like the fact that this organization is doing things their way. And like I said, if you don't show your worth, i.e. DeMarcus Robinson, if you're not going to block, you're gonna be shown the door. Okay. Now, granted, that was also a good salary cap move, because I don't know what his contract was, but it ain't happening with us anymore. So, he was shown the door. I like the fact that McDaniel is showing he's not being the Belichick, mini-me. He's doing things his way, and the Raiders so far are buying into it. Like cussing at our mamas. Sorry there, Coach. I'm just saying, he's played well for us. Okay. As a backup safety.
Gotcha.
But again, getting the system in, because again, what's the name of that offense there, Alex?
The Angela Lansbury offense, no?
Yeah. / Amelia Earhart / Fairbanks /
Carlton
offense.
Banks offense.
Yeah.
Did you guys have to dance too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's close.
I do it better most of the time. But yeah, otherwise known as the Amelia Earhart Carlton Banks, i.e. the Ron Earhart, and it's not Chuck Fairbanks, as he was the coach. We figured out it was the Gene Stallings.
No, we're totally calling it the
Swear,
Carlton
there's
Banks
new
going
names every
forward.
time you
That was his name.
Anyway,
it keeps progressing. It's got a different hyphen every time we do
Not like
that.
a game show versus a
Right?
But it's an extra week in when offense excuse me, COVID coming back up.
Bo Bros, how are you doing?
Bo Bros, how you doing? I counted you as 3 of the 6 Charger fans out there, so you were counted there, shipmate. There you go. I wanted to make
he's talking about we got 6 total. Listen, Captain was a born a hater. I just want to let y'all know that he was born a hater.
I'm not a hater. I will be out there September 11th in SoFi Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a hater. I am there. Corner end zone, baby.
Haters go to the game too.
Yeah. Because you go, doesn't mean you could be wearing Charger stuff.
Right.
No.
Games.
Come on, man. Wait,
He'll have a powder blue pin on, and that's about the extent
I'm
of
going to
it.
be that guy.
Yeah.
I'm going to be that
Full
guy.
pirate gear.
Pirate.
Full pirate
Okay.
gear.
I will be. No, actually, this is the wrong pants. So no, I won't be that guy. I will be close to being this guy. Or I might be.
Bros are gonna be there in person. They want you to come to Thunder Alley.
I'll be at Thunder. I've been there before, and actually, we actually kind of overruled Thunder Alley the last time I was there at Thunder Alley for the very last game in the stadium, the soccer stadium. That's the last time I was at the game.
That doesn't count. StubHub Center doesn't count. We're talking SoFi.
I'm just saying, if I'm invited and if both brothers ask us, I will be there. Just let me know. Just let me know. Both bros, get with somebody who knows my number, and I'll get my number. I'm not going to tell everybody my number here. Anyway, what was I saying?
Captain, if you're okay, they can reach out to me. They have my contact details, so I can.
Okay, yeah. Both bros, get with Richie. Richie will do it. And unless I would cough again. Sorry. Getting back to point, Richie. I'm sorry. Very good that we have the extra game, and it means that you have that another week of analysis that you wouldn't normally have had. Okay, you're in camp a week earlier. and you get a chance to see things. And I really think it's going to be beneficial. Sorry, folks. Again,
just have some oxygen. Give us some oxygen.
Yeah, getting over COVID. So apologies. That's it. But I think good things of it, and I think that the other thing is, and not just McDaniel, the defense under Graham. Again, an extra week to figure out a defense that's brand new for all of the people that are there. Okay, that pays dividends. It does pay dividends. So having Graham look to see who he has on that defense is going to be a boon for the Raiders as a whole.
No, I think that's totally fair. And the one thing I will say with McDaniels is that it took him about a year where he did some assessment and then he just blew everything up. Now, I think he regrets some of the decisions he made, and he said as much actually in your presser, to be honest.
He did.
So, however, when you look at what he did when it came to his vision, I don't think he regrets much, because when you look at how everything panned out for the Broncos after he left, a good portion of the pieces that he brought in are what led us to a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, how did you use the pieces that were on the roster? How did you treat the people around you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? So I think that McDaniels has had quite a bit of time for reflection. I think he's had some time to kind of return to a portion of comfort in terms of going back to the Patriots. And I really do think he's going to do quite well with the Raiders, given the fact that I think he's realized and recognized that once Brady left, the Patriots have kind of gone.
Stop swearing on your own show.
Hey, I'm giving some credit where credit's due. I think he recognized that the hoodie didn't covet certain positions that other teams that have won the Super Bowl have. And when you don't have a quarterback, you need to surround your quarterback with other, we'll call it elevated talent. And McDaniels, I believe, recognizes the difference between A and B. When you have, arguably the greatest quarterback of all time, which pains me greatly to say, look, you can't win with two teams and do as well as you have if you're not in that upper tier. It's just that simple. It truly is. I'm sorry. Look, there's a part of me that died just saying that aloud, but at the same time,
too, so,
yeah, like at the same time, you have to give credit where credit's due, and it is due. So when you look at what team you have around you now, he recognizes that Derek Carr hasn't had that elevated receiver like a guy like Devontae Adams. He also recognizes the benefit of a top-tier offensive line, which I think is why you're seeing some of the draft picks that you guys saw this year in terms of Parham as a great example of coveting certain positions and targeting certain players that fit a certain mold. And I also think that he recognizes that coaching is super important for certain talent positions, like D-line coaches and offensive line coaches, because so many of these recent Super Bowls have been won within the trenches. The Chiefs struggled in that Super Bowl against the Bucs because they didn't have the depth at the line positions in order to compete against the Buccaneers, right? And I mean, I realize that this is a painful topic, Alex, but nonetheless.
Well, it's one thing to say you don't have the depth when it's one person, but when you don't have 4 out of the 5 starters, I mean, that's like
right.
I'm pretty sure that would be a problem for any of the teams in this.
Sure, but to then claim $50 million a year thereafter as a result of not being able to elevate a team, you have to.
Well, you traded for that money too.
You have to balance all of the things across the board. And so McDaniels recognizes the importance of the lines to help bolster both the quarterback, the run game, the passing game, and all of these different things.
And that is what that's my segue. That is why he went and got Carmen Brasili, who is a disciple of Dante
Scarnecchia.
Thank you, Scarnecchia.
Yeah.
Frank Oakham was a fantastic lineman in his own right as a defender. He's our defensive line coach. So bringing those two guys into the mix was probably the best thing that he did. He got rid of Cable, which was, I mean, I could have been the offensive line coach and been better than Cable. And I am an offensive line coach. I just didn't get the tasking. But getting rid of Cable and bringing in, again, Brasili, who is a Scarnecchia protege, bringing in Oakham, who has these guys working hard. And the one thing that I will say about McDaniels is that everybody is buying into the old school, if you F up, you're going to run laps. And that's something that everybody has been doing. You screw up, you run a lap. It's old school. And that's why, even the guys were, the big fat boys on the offensive line were like, Coach, I don't want to screw up anymore because I don't want to run laps. And that is something that has been new to the mindset of the Raiders. And granted, it's only been preseason, but their penalties have gone down precipitously. And there has been very few of the mind penalties, the false starts or the offsides. I've seen maybe one, maybe two, and normally you'd see one or two a quarter, in the regular season. Granted, I know it's the preseason, and these guys
that normally carries over though.
Yeah, but and
that
again,
kind of stuff, that stuff almost always carries. Almost
they talked
always
about it with
carries
Dallas,
over.
didn't they? I mean, Dallas had like 15 penalties or something. That was the whole convo of get up the next day was like how terrible Dallas was.
They had more penalties than that. They had an additional something like 10 penalties that were
refused.
17 penalties
because the play was better than the penalty.
17 is for 129 yards.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
That's bad. That's really bad.
That's why they're America's team.
And there you go.
America. So with regards to the Raiders, I actually think you guys have a bit of an advantage with the new coaching regime and having that extra game, which I mean is great for you guys this season. And I think it was a good choice to move to a second kind of go around in McDaniels. He's going to recognize what he needs to do, why he needs to do it. And I guess this is an interesting kind of comment here, which is the Raiders O-line is going to be a real problem. The scheme and the talent on the O-line is not working right now. So, Mike, I guess what the question is how many of your starters have played? How many of your starters have played and at what position? Because, I mean,
you got to have depth, right?
I'm projecting from the Broncos side of things. Different coaches have different philosophies. Some coaches believe in holding back their starters. Other coaches believe in a blend. I'll be honest, Coach, Captain. I didn't look at, actually, Coach, this goes for you as well. I didn't pay close enough attention to either of your teams in terms of the blend that you guys put on the field in the first, few series, if you will, of starters versus backups. But Captain, over to you. How many of your starters actually played that first block of series?
Well, for those that were paying attention in this past game, and I'm not going to go back to the Jacksonville game because that was just a bonus game, but Thayer Munford was playing right tackle this series, and he played rather well. Leatherwood played the second half, which doesn't bode well for Alex Leatherwood. Okay. And for those that were paying attention before, Jermaine Illuminor a couple years ago won the starting right tackle spot out of preseason, and we saw him for a couple series, in the Jacksonville game. I don't recall if he played last game or not, but for those that are saying that we need to sign Darrell Williams, and I'm actually one of those guys that are saying that we need to sign Darrell Williams. If they don't sign Darrell Williams, look forward to having Jermaine Illuminor as your right tackle, as I predicted at the beginning of the season. Okay. And that Leatherwood might be your swing guard. Mumford might make the practice squad. I know that they're not going to have Brandon Parker there because he hasn't played since he got injured with the lat or triceps or whatever the hell injury it is. Why he hasn't been IR'd at this point, I do not know. But I like what I saw with Mumford. I like what I saw with Bam Olasene, and he might make the practice squad. You can't teach size. Okay. So the offensive line as it is right now, Cotton has played quite well. Simpson is getting his, well, I'll keep the reference to myself because I don't want to offend people in the audience about being pushed back. But Simpson has not played that well at left guard, so you might see maybe Leatherwood switches over to left guard. I don't know. But there's still plenty to do. It's going to be the best 5 guys. The only guy who has his spot guaranteed is Colton Miller because you haven't seen him. Colton Miller is your left tackle.
100%.
James is your center right now, but Parham is going to push him. And Parham is going to push for time at guard or center. Leatherwood is a question mark. I like what I see with Cotton at right guard, that the light finally came on for the kid and he's producing. And the question is right tackle. But I think that Illuminor is going to be playing right tackle when the season starts. So it's going to be, who out of the is it going to be Olasene who goes to the practice squad? Probably. I think hopefully he gets a hangnail and I IR him for the years. I don't want to lose the kid because he's got a lot of promise there, and he's boat racing people when he's in there. Granted, he's boat racing third stringers, but he's just kind of like the big dumb guy is just going to kind of and pushes him and it's a block because he's so big, right? But Mumford's played well. Parham's played well. I like what I see with the depth. Right tackle is still a question, but I still think you're going to see Illuminor at right tackle.
Fair enough. Alex, so over to you in terms of the Chiefs game. Want to make sure we kind of get as much info in for those that are joining us live. And again, we appreciate all of you for coming live to the show. Hit that like button. It helps us out in the algorithms, gets more people here live so we can all have better comments. Alex, I did watch the Chiefs game. I thought it was pretty interesting. I think there was some – we saw I saw what you have been talking about on this show, which is a different blend. And as much as it pains me to say it, at least in that first
drive, yeah, it looked nice.
Now I will say that I saw some glaring issues with the style of play that you guys were playing. I'm going to save that in hopes that the Broncos expose it and I can laugh about it later. But I am very curious to see your take on how your first game went, what you saw, offensive style changes and all those sorts of things. And I know your work with Arrowhead Addict is going to kind of coax some of that out. So curious to see what you have to say about what you saw.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of took my major talking point. I mean, obviously, week 1 of the preseason, so the people you want to watch are either not playing or playing one drive. The first drive looked pretty great. Mahomes was 6 for 7 with a touchdown, connected to 6 different receivers. Juju didn't even catch a ball, but just looked nice. Different sort of approach, like I've been preaching, but it was nice to just see him not go out and throw to Kelsey or 2 to Tyreek and then 1 in the red zone to Kelsey and call it good. It was kind of nice change of pace to just watch him utilize screens more and use the backfield more in pass plays and just sort of spread the ball out. Like I said, I think that's going to be the approach going into the year, just to sort of be the unknown. And obviously teams last year knew it was Tyreek and Kelsey, and we can bracket off of that. And the heck's going on?
It wasn't me.
What?
That wasn't me. That means that was you.
It wasn't me.
Oh, that was me. My bad.
Mm-hmm.
One of those random videos to start playing.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, it was nice to see Mahomes spread the ball around, hit 6 different receivers. They did have starters.
The short answer to that is yeah, they did. I was quite surprised how they had
One
quite
series.
a number of starters play.
Yeah, I mean, I think they had the whole starting unit out there. I mean, they didn't make too much of a focal point of using Clyde Edwards-Helaire, just because I think he's kind of been banged up. So they didn't run the ball anyways. But the whole starting unit was out there for the first drive. Outside of Wiley was at, or not Wiley. Yeah, no, Wiley was at right tackle. It's still that's the one spot that seems to kind of be alternating around, but from who's working with the ones and twos. But the first unit looked good. Mahomes looked like he was in form and able to connect with all these different people. The defensive side had some promise with the ones and twos out there, at least in terms of the pressure.
Jones did well, but that should be a surprise to no one.
Well, yeah, the big one on the defensive side was Karlaftis. I thought he'd have kind of played as advertised for being a first-round pick and kind of the bull rushing edge presence they got to complement Jones is pass rushing and allow Jones to move back inside and not be so accounted for on the outside. And Karlaftis, he had like 6 pressures, a sack. I mean, he always seemed to kind of be around the ball or in the backfield and just played with a pretty high motor, which is what you want to see out of first round.
Boris Karloff is like 125 years old, man, and you got him playing for the Chiefs?
Who?
Boris Karloff, the Dracula.
Fair enough. Well, this is Karlaftis, but
Karlaftis.
So he's trying to fake being Greek. I see how that works.
He is Greek.
Boris Karloff.
He's the real Greek freak.
Well, if he's Dracula, maybe he does have all of those lives, so maybe he's come back. But
the first second string played pretty good. It seemed to be in pretty good form. I thought the offensive line, Coach kind of talked about defensive players that stuck out. He's a defensive guy. I played offensive line, so I always focus on the offense. But I thought the offensive line kind of played bad. Orlando Brown, but he's also, you got to account for the fact that he missed the beginning of camp. But he definitely missed some pass pros and just didn't look good on some of them. And then Mahomes got hit twice trying to throw the ball, and it's like it's a little too close for comfort, especially in week 1, because if that was a little bit different in circumstances, he could be out for the year. And then we're talking about
hit hard too on one of those plays.
Yeah, he talked about it after the game. He's like, yeah, that was definitely more than I wanted to feel for the first preseason game. But
that first passing kind of series, the left guard, if I'm not mistaken,
it was Brown. Brown got him hit on the one that would have been a touchdown. That was like,
he got rocked.
Yeah.
On that first series where I think it was your left guard, if I'm not mistaken, or between the left guard and the center, where they just blew past whoever that was, and they teed him up.
Yeah, it was not good to see. I was like, let's get this drive done.
Defensive lineman's shoulder, basically pick him up and just toss him down like a rag doll, and I'm pretty sure that didn't feel great.
Oh no, yeah, I mean, it didn't feel great to watch either. I was like, all right, let's stop. Let's stop.
When that happens, you look at each other as coaches and be like, get him out.
Yeah, you're like, nope.
Yeah, get him out.
I mean, that's like.
By the way, I was only off by 5 years. Karloff was born in 1887, so he would be 130-something years old. So
Dracula kid.
Oh no, he was Frankenstein's monster. I had that wrong.
Nosferatu.
Nosferatu.
Man. But I guess in terms of players who kind of stock up, stock down, I thought Ronald Jones definitely diminished his own stock. He missed a pass pro pretty bad and just didn't. He had the most carries of all the running backs with 4, but he didn't do anything with it. Derek Gore, another guy.
That was what his problem was in Tampa. Was that he was not good on pass pro, but he would have one or two great games, and then they would forget him. So if he's doing that in Kansas City, that's his MO.
Oh,
yeah, but that's kind of the narrative across the kingdom. There you go. I didn't say the other one to piss you off, but that's kind of the narrative now is everyone's off Ronald Jones' wagon. Let's get him off the team. And I imagine that's how it's going to go. Just depends on how they decide to.
I'm actually sitting low on purpose.
Get a phone book.
I lowered my seat and my microphone so y'all can see the top of my jersey. See, I know what I was wearing. So I'm 5'11" on a normal day. I'm 5'11" on a normal day.
I'm 6'8".
No, you're not.
I wish. That'd be cool.
Yeah, 6'8" center. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no. In basketball, I meant. But
you'll be a beast in basketball.
Yeah, but so Ronald Jones definitely, I think, hurt his stock. Even he already was doing that in camp, and this game kind of further cemented the fact that he's just going down. And then Derek Gore was another one. He's kind of a no name, but he's a fan favorite. Came on last year as a running back and was on the team, and always seemed to have like one electric play every game. But he actually accounted for both turnovers in the game. So he had a fumble and pass and ended up, I believe. So he just didn't do anything good to help his cause and staying around, especially with the fact of where he was kind of already at in terms of his notoriety in the league and the depth chart. And then guys that kind of really impressed and raised their stock, in my opinion. I talked about Nosferatu, or the Greek Freak, if you will, already, so we won't go over that again. But Justin Watson, who's kind of a lengthy, speedy wide receiver that they picked up from Tampa Bay this offseason. He was kind of the security blanket for all 3 QBs out there, and had caught a pretty nice touchdown from Buechele. It was pretty high ball, in my opinion, but he went up and got it. And he's kind of been the rave of, we finally have like a fast, lengthy white dude, and everyone's super hyped about that. So he's kind of, I sort of helped his stock already in the preseason. In this game, he was pretty impressive for what he was working with. So I'd be interested to see, if they kick him up into the ones a little more and let him catch some balls from Pat, and maybe see if this game helps kind of implement him more into the scheme. Then the big dude I want to talk about is Pacheco. I've already been talking about him. Everybody's been going crazy. He's out there wearing number 10, kind of looks like a Tyreek Hill, runs a 4.3, and he's just been balling with the opportunities he's been getting. And I think kind of the rise of him is the reason you see Ronald Jones and Derek Gore and maybe McKinnon to some degree are kind of falling down on terms of their stock with the run game and just working out of the backfield. Because the thing with Pacheco, he's an okay running back. I mean, he was out of Rutgers, not a very good program. But he ran a 4.3 and has the tools to be effective at running the ball. But to me, he's the most effective catching out of the backfield. And you could see that kind of in the game. I mean, he caught an out, his quick 5-yard out, and he kind of absorbed a pretty good hit, stayed on his feet, and went for 5 more yards. So he turned, something like that you wouldn't see Ronald Jones do or
the balance. The balance.
Yeah, it just and that's kind of how Reed likes to use his running backs anyways, is out of the passing, out of the backfield, quick screens, and just quick, pass routes to catch a quick 5. And so I think that kind of fits into the overall scheme of how Reed wants to use running backs. He's, athletic, has all the tools, and only seems to kind of just be continuing to rise in terms of the hype he's getting and like the usage. Because
Right.
I mean, for a guy that was taken in I think the 6th round, he only played 13 snaps, and they were all at the ones. So I mean, you got a guy who's already going into week 1, kind of carrying the praise to be starting unit, and got the initial snaps to indicate that they plan to use him a lot. Also returned a kick for I think 34 yards. So he kind of, in my opinion, was the biggest one to really rise his stock, or I guess more appropriate to say solidify sort of what we've been hearing outside of the training camp to this point.
Yeah, that's a big deal when you have a guy that was picked that late in the draft, 6th, 7th, 5th, even 4th. I mean, even as a draft.
Yeah, it was late. I mean, it was later. Yeah.
No, what I'm just saying is that even a 4th, even on as a 4th round draft pick, if you start playing with the ones that early in your career,
7th round.
Yeah, 7th round pick.
No. But my point is that even as early as the 4th, if you start playing with the 1st as a rookie in the league, you're killing it. If you start playing with the ones as a 7th round pick, that's you're talking rare air.
That's how you're supposed to do it all. I mean,
yeah. Like that's rare air.
Yeah, when they took him, I was like, they just took this guy, as a flyer because he ran a 4.3, and I kind of watched his tape, and I didn't expect much out of him because, granted, there's not a whole lot of people chopping up, college mixtapes of a Rutgers running back, but he just didn't look like, you could kind of see that he was fast, but he didn't like look fast by how he ran. He just kind of looked awkward, and I didn't think, I was like, he won't make it through camp, and then here he is just wearing 10, which I think is kind of savage. To get Tyreek's number, and he's just getting all this praise, and maybe that plays a fact because fans are watching a dude with mini dreads wearing 10, somewhat fast, and think it's Tyreek, or they just the cognitive
Tyreek 2.0.
Yeah. I won't go like that, but it is, and I said that about Jerrion Ely too, which he's kind of just fallen off the face of the earth. But it's interesting to see how much they use Pacheco, at least what you see out of camp with passing and having him run not just the quick outs or like the Texas routes out of the backfield that you would normally see, but you see him running deeper route progressions like wheel routes and stuff, and he's making some pretty sweet catches. And I think it's interesting just that when Tyreek started, he was kind of that hybrid, got a few touches out of the backfield, maybe caught a screen.
Yep.
He was a very raw prospect coming out of college, and that was just a freak athlete. And the old saying is you always find a way to give your athlete the ball. You don't care how you have to do it, but if you give them 5 attempts, they'll do something with one of them. And I just think it'll be kind of interesting to see how Pacheco progresses. Maybe they try to turn him into sort of a slot receiver more so than a running back. And it'll just, it's going to be cool to see how that plays out in the year. And it may not at all, but at least with the hype he's got up to this point, it seems to be going that way.
I think that's fair. And now the question is that, you saw that with Tyreek, right? Where he was a freak as an athlete, freak.
I specifically remember I went to this was Alex Smith. So it was 2016. They lost to the Titans. It was like 7-6 or something. Or no, it was 10-7. They lost.
It was a super low scoring game.
Yeah, it was like the second coldest game in Arrowhead. Like you get a beer and it would just be frost. And it was the first drive. I think Tyreek just got a quick pitch and housed it. Like took it 70 yards, and that was the only points of the whole freaking game. And then everyone was like, "Why are they not using him more?" And then you slowly saw like week by week they tried to give him more touches and get him more involved, and then he turned into the guy he is. But I think that's an unfair thing to compare Pacheco to. I just think it's an interesting set of circumstances that he's kind of the similar type of football player, and just like a fast, athletic guy that can kind of do stuff with the running the ball, but also catching. So it'll just be cool to see if that progresses more.
I don't think it's unfair. I think that Tyreek had all the athleticism in the world. The question is that was he willing to take Andy Reid's direction to heart?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, what Tyreek was lacking was polished route running. Tyreek in college was like, catch me if you can, good luck.
Yeah.
And that works in college because you are by far the most athletic person on
he
the
was like
field
playing
because
for like West Alabama too.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's like,
Exactly.
good luck, catch me, let's go, right?
Oklahoma State,
Yeah, good luck, catch me, let's go. But the problem is when you get the NFL, the cornerbacks are better, the defensive linemen are better, the offensive linemen are better. Like even the linebackers are better.
And everyone's fast too.
Yeah, everyone's fast. You're no longer the best or fastest guy in the field. So Tyreek took the coaching to heart and actually said, okay, I'm still faster than like 95% of the people in the NFL, or even 98% of the people in the NFL. But then the question is, that doesn't mean that I can outrun them. So, or out technique them. And he actually took Andy Reid's coaching and the wide receiver coach's coaching to heart. He said, I need to learn to become a polished route runner and take it to the next level. And that's why he has the contract he does now. So it'll be really interesting to see if Andy Reid can do it all over again with a new guy from Rutgers on your team, and to see if he can allow his message to permeate through the roster again and repeat some of the same success that he had with the former speedster who had raw talent but no polish.
Also, I'd just like to add I don't know if you guys saw the Dolphins game, but I think we can go ahead and say that Patrick Mahomes is way more accurate than Tua. And I think that was affirmed in week 1 of the preseason.
It was affirmed before you got traded. Let's just
yeah, but I just want to make sure it's real.
Video evidence to prove. Okay.
No, actually, I missed the Dolphins game, so tell me what I missed. Seriously.
Oh, it's just bad. Yeah.
So basically, he did not improve over anything that I've seen the last couple years.
It was so we just refer to Tillery as a polished turd. The Dolphins game was not polished; it was just a turd.
Okay. Well, I'll find out this Saturday because I will be down there.
All right.
So, moving on to the Broncos game. Now that we've kind of covered the other 3 AFC West teams. So I watch games a little different. I actually, I watch them digitally, and I pause regularly throughout the replay, and I take notes. That's kind of the way that I watch football. It might not be fun for all, but it's fun for me. So I had some interesting kind of things that I took away from it, which was Baron Browning looked pretty good for a convert from inside linebacker. He looked that he was more comfortable on the outside than he was the inside. And that's saying something given the fact that he was our best inside linebacker on the Denver Broncos last year. So I thought that was rather remarkable that someone could make such a drastic transition and look as good as he did. I still question whether or not that was the best move for the Broncos, but I think time will tell as the season progresses whether or not we made the right move by depleting our inside linebacker room for the gain of an outside linebacker. So I think that'll, time will tell with regards to whether or not that was the right move overall for the Denver Broncos. We lost one of our replacements, if you will, for 4 to 6 weeks with Jonas Griffith, who was a very athletic and pretty well-rounded inside linebacker last year, paired actually with Baron Browning at the inside linebacker position near the back end of last year. He's gone for now 2 to 4 weeks with regards to an elbow injury. This is one of the risks that you run as an NFL team when you start playing some of your starters in the preseason. So do you want them to start or do you want them to get practice? And if you want them to get practice, you run the risk of injury. And I think the Broncos found out the hard way that, playing guys that you don't want to get hurt in preseason, this is a quick way of getting them hurt. Now, on the flip side of that, I think there's some pretty clear evidence that playing guys in the preseason helps later in the season, because we've seen the Rams do this the last 3-4 years, and they ended up with massive injuries 2 years ago when they held everyone out, and then they won the Super Bowl shortly thereafter when they realized that they should play guys. So I think it's fair to say you want your starters to play a little bit, but not too much. Jonas Griffith had a freak injury in the second play of the game, so can't do much about that.
What'd your boy Sauber do? I have to know.
Sauber was great.
What'd he do? Do you have any stats?
I don't have them present, but honestly, he always has 4 or 5 plays a game that are understated. No one pays attention, but an outside block that helps break a run, or a catch that he makes the first down on. Just the problem is that in Broncos country, no one likes to pay attention to those key plays. They want to look for the big 40-yard gains, like you saw from Davis, for example, the guy that got cut, which blew my mind in this last roster cuts, with the big 40-yard pass catch. They're like, oh, that's amazing. But football is typically not won or lost on a 40-yard gain like that. It's typically won or lost on the 5-yard grinding style plays that you see from guys like Saubert, as opposed to the splash plays that you get from guys like Davis.
Yeah.
It's the way it works. Same thing with the hit that you had on Mahomes, right? He complained about getting rocked. Well, why did that happen? Well, an offensive lineman didn't block properly in a preseason game.
Yeah.
Right. And those are the types of plays that are often overlooked.
No, absolutely.
They just are. They're completely overlooked by fans, and they can really cause some damage. Some other comments that I had written down here was, particularly in the first third, if you will, of Josh Johnson's play, he looked awful. Man. He looked like a steaming pile of just trash. And that was me converting to American speak, because trash here in Canada is called garbage. But he looked awful.
He was dog water.
Yeah, he was brutal. And
I did look it up. He didn't have any catches.
No,
I went the extra mile.
Extra mile.
For you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate
extra mile.
Yeah,
get it, mile.
Yeah. High. Yeah, mile high. I covered that. Yeah, we're all good. A few players that I wanted to make note of: Caden Stearns and Wazarike, both elevated past their competition. Wazarike was our draft pick this year. Caden Stearns is a second-year player for Broncos at safety. Both of them look like they belong to go against better competition to see what they can do. The other thing that really concerned me with the Broncos defensive scheme was that we took guys that belonged at nose tackle and moved them to defensive end. That pissed me off. It made no sense whatsoever. I wanted to see, if you're going to do that, you need to do what you often hear as the heavy set, where you take a defensive tackle and you put 2 of them on the field at the same time to overpower a offensive line.
Heck no, Jack.
And then the other thing that I just wanted to kind of call out was Brandon Johnson really did well. He showed out. He had some massive plays. He caught some good balls, and just did really, really well. So, and then last but not least, sorry, just one more thing is, believe it or not, despite the fact that Borgie got cut, I thought he looked better than Boone.
Oh, Mike Boone.
Yeah. So that's really all I got to say.
Any,
for the Broncos game.
and I didn't watch it. Okay.
Oh, he's like, you know what? I'm going to say what I want to say, and I'm going to
Yeah,
take
he's
my
like,
football,
yeah.
and I'm going to go
Get
home.
my
He just
piece.
dropped the mic and left.
Your
You're muted,
mic
Rich.
is
You're muted.
muted, fuck.
Muted.
What?
Mike's not on. But I was so I didn't really watch it. I just kind of saw the highlights after the fact. But I looked at the box score and the stat line, and you saw that kind of the big, like Gregory and Chubb, and it didn't seem like those guys really played all that much. So I was curious. So okay, well, and that would I figured Chubb wouldn't. I wasn't sure about Gregory, but I was curious if there was.
Gregory was hurt. He only came back during practice this week.
Okay. Well, fair enough. But I was curious if there was any undrafted guys or sort of no-name guys that kind of really stepped up and made their presence felt in terms of rushing the passer and just setting the edge in general.
The only guy that would have really stepped ahead was Baron Browning, because he was an inside linebacker that kind of converted to outside linebacker. So I would say that he kind of stepped up just because he had a position change. And I think he surprised a lot of Broncos country in terms of how well he progressed to move positions so quickly. I mean, he was arguably our best inside linebacker last year. And he was easily one of the best outside linebackers that we had on the team.
Okay. Yeah, I was kind of just curious what your thoughts were on the rotation they used from like 2 down and who seemed to be the most effective.
I don't think we had any surprises in our defense. I think we had a couple guys who, did what we thought they would do. I think we had
who we thought they were.
Yeah, like it was, we knew what they were, and they did what.
We are who we thought they were, and if you don't think so, then crown their ass.
I actually think, if I'm going to be honest, I think the biggest shocks came to Broncos country from the piss poor run blocking from the second string offensive lineman.
Oh, well, yeah. Every time he says Bronco country, I just want to say let's ride. I don't know why.
Let's ride.
That's all I hear is let's ride. Every time I hear Broncos country, let's ride.
Tito poses a nice question here.
And I put it up there for everybody, and I just let it.
So, what Raider player do I guess you or Broncos fans in general hate the most?
That's directed.
Same with you and me, Coach. But
all three of y'all.
Let's start with old Rich A.
I don't really hate any Raiders players. I just think that the general team as a whole has a history with the Broncos that just kind of has a little extra to it. I don't have a player that I hate the most, particularly in the Raiders. I don't.
He's Canadian. Okay, that's his excuse. He's
That's the reason. That's the reason because he's Canadian.
Yeah, he's Canadian. He's nonviolent.
Okay.
What about you, Coach? I got to think about mine for a second.
I don't.
It's not a passion. I want to say Derek Carr, but I get him on when we play him. Otherwise, I mean, I kind of respect him, but.
Well, I mean, holistically, I'm just glad to see Tyreek Hill gone because he's such a pain to defend. But I mean, outside of
that, you got Kelsey.
Well, I mean, yeah, we're good with Kelsey. I much rather have to deal with Kelsey than Tyreek. But
I mean, we're talking about the Raiders, but while you're doing that, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if I hate. Hate is a strong word. I don't think I hate any player per se. You just those ones that give you trouble. Overall, like Max Crosby, for instance, giving our right tackle hell last season. That's the person you'd be like, you look, just get in this way. Do what you got to do. Just get in this way. Keep him off my quarterback. But yeah, I mean, I don't hate anybody in particular. I'm a fan at heart. Regardless of me being a Chargers fan, I'm a fan at heart. I love football. So I just love this. I root for players outside of my own, I guess you say fan purview. So I don't particularly hate any particular person or anybody on anybody else's team.
See, I actually think that the Broncos fans hated Sorensen more than any Raiders player.
Really?
Like on the Chiefs. Like I know he's not with you anymore, but
yeah, if I was on another team, I'd love to see him out there because that dude just gave up
liability.
like Sorensen was just a dirty player. You know
Call
what I mean?
him Geico. He's a liability.
Yeah,
like Sorensen was just a dirty player. So I think that I just think that like if we're gonna assess the players that Broncos country really disliked, I think it would be Sorensen over even a Raiders player, because Sorensen actually seemed to be almost headhunting in certain respects when he was playing, where he would actually aim to hurt people.
Wasn't Romanowski a Bronco too, though?
Yeah, I think he was both.
That goes he has it for both.
Yeah.
He's like in the black or in the blue, right?
That whole spitting incident. I can't deal with Bill Romanowski.
I guess the dude I dislike the most, if we're talking in terms of
overall,
would be Abram. Just because I hate how that dude plays, because he tries to be Rodney Harrison, but he's not. And then it was like always chirping after the whistle. You could just see him. And I know from my own experience in games, I hated dudes like that. And those dudes are usually the ones that don't do anything. So you usually get the last laugh at them. I think in recent memory of Chiefs Raiders showdowns, I think the dude I dislike or hate the most is Michael Crabtree. Mainly because there's that one Thursday night football. I had to drive 9 hours. I was speeding to make it back to watch, and then the Chiefs ended up losing when Crabtree pushed off twice to catch that touchdown. They gave him like 3 chances, and then did his Crabtree antics after the fact. Just a sorry ass receiver.
I see what you did there.
I just wanted to answer Tito's question. I'd say in recent memory, Crabtree, now Abram.
Well, he was responsible for at least 2 chains.
Yeah, there you go. He gave 2 chains the second one, man.
And I'm gonna answer the questions as a Raider person for all y'all. For the Broncos, it's Tom Jackson and Mark Schlereth, because of what they did mostly with their mouths, because they were just mouthy sons of bitches and just so full of themselves, and you took it off on air after their career. For the Chargers, the person I despised, twofold. I despised Sean Merriman because he was such an a-hole. Okay. With that lights out bull crap.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because he was. I hated, but I couldn't stand. And I'm not against LaDainian Tomlinson, because there's only one LT and he played for the Giants. It wasn't the guy that played for the Chargers. So LaDainian,
there's only one LT that didn't have a crack addiction.
Well, okay, but there's only one LT played for the Giants. Daniel Tomlinson, I respected. I couldn't stand him because he would always have big gains against the Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
And Seau, who may he rest in peace. He was a hellacious player. Plus, he also tried to take my wife out before I was married to her.
Oh, well, there you go.
So. And Jim Laslovic too. They worked down the street in San Diego. Laslovic was hitting on her too. As far as the Chiefs, wow. I don't remember too many Chiefs players other than I can't stand Kelsey. That's pretty current, because again, just
why not?
Kelsey has an attitude and a face that you just want to punch.
Yeah, and the Raiders can't cover him, and so if the Raiders would ever cover Travis Kelsey, then their recent record against the Chiefs would be a lot better. And that's not me. It's got to be somebody else.
I respect that. I think if I was not a Chiefs fan, I would hate Travis Kelce too.
I like his brother. I like his brother.
He's a lineman. You can't hate a lineman because they're just like big blobs, you know.
Hey.
Yeah,
hey.
I'm one of the big blobs.
Okay, I'm an older big blob.
I'm lumping myself into the big blob, the BB squad.
Okay. BBS, the big blob squad.
The big blob.
Yeah, but so that I answer the question for us against all of those guys. So there you go, Tito, with the Raiders thing.
Fantastic. So we're nearing on the back end of the show here, guys. I did want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. We're pushing it tonight, but we had a packed show, a lot of information, a lot of details that are important to kind of get out to the viewers of the show. And I really want to thank everyone for joining us live. Again, super important if you can like the video for all of us on all of our channels. Very, very important to get more viewers in on the show, more participation. And I mean, the chat's been spectacular tonight. So thank
comment
you.
After the show. It helps our algorithm.
It does. It really does. And I just want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. We're going to be back, obviously, next week. We're going to have some insight onto the preseason game 2s. We're going to have some more insight in terms of which players we think are going to likely make the 53 as a result of probably playing in a preseason game 2. Game 2 is kind of the new game 3 in preseason. So I think this is where we're going to really start seeing the rubber hitting the road, so to speak. So if you want to go ahead and leave your comments down below, hit those thumbs up, leave us some comments on Twitter. And if you have any questions or topics that you'd like for us to cover, please go ahead and reach out to either one of us on Twitter. My handle is directly below. We got the Real Givens, his Twitter handles down there below. Locked On Defense and at Captain CAPT Jack Rackham on Twitter for the captain. And we can go ahead and get all those questions in, and we'll try to cover as much as we can on each and every show for you. This is really a unique show. There's not too many out there like this that have all 4 teams from each division. And for those of you who are, in fact, banned on Twitter, probably for
I got to know. Just right now, why are you banned? What did you do? Come on.
Well, Twitter's a special place full of some very interesting people, and
my favorite place.
And let's just say that there's some, there's many people on Twitter who are just far too sensitive for their own good. So I can appreciate how you might be banned from Twitter because there's some fascinating folks on there. But for those of you who are banned on Twitter, you can go ahead and leave the comments down below, and we will go ahead and coax them out and talk about them the next show.
I would advise you
for everyone else, just do whatever you want to do and like the show, and we will see you next week. Until then, where the West Side is the best side, this is the Wild West Podcast. Have a good one.
Huh.